I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, and I'm located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington. And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to Wheel Talk. We would love some more interaction with you all throughout this future episodes, and we would love to hear some listener questions. They may get on the episode.
Yeah, just submit them to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com, or you can submit them on our Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast. Thanks. Okay.
Started.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi. We're live.
How was your day?
It was good. Let's see, what did I do today? I launched some mugs in the shop at noon today. And
Did any of them sell?
Yeah, I sold, let's see, 2, 4, 3. I had 4 orders and I sold 5 things. So
Nice.
One of them was a repeat. Actually, 2 of them were repeat customers that are like local to me. So they're going to come pick up their pieces tomorrow or over the next couple days, and then I'm going to ship out the other 2 tomorrow. So yeah, I'm getting kind of like enjoyment out of this online stuff more. You know how I always used to be like, oh, I hate selling online. I hate doing all the photography. But when you like streamline it enough that you cut out some of the steps that you don't enjoy, like Rachel's been helping me a lot, then it's actually like manageable and not so terrible.
I just stopped caring what my pictures looked like online.
Yeah, I was always under the like, oh, I got to put it on this gradient background and set up the tripod and set up all these lights. But I mean, right now I just have a light clamped above my kiln, and I've been photographing with the pots in my hand in front of the kiln wall.
Yeah, I feel like that's totally fine, and it also shows your hands, so it's like, hey, this is how big this is. Yeah.
So that's been fun. I've probably made like comparable in sales. I'm like $200 shy of what I sold all of last year on online sales. Period.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what?
For online sales only. So like I'm gonna I mean, obviously we're gonna have to shift around how I'm making money this year with the COVID stuff going on. So yeah. But online sales have been pretty good the last month to me.
Good.
So
that's
I'm gonna keep that up.
I'm probably like quadruple my online sales from last year.
Yeah.
Because I didn't sell anything.
Yeah, those first years when you're just getting going, it's like, oh, I tripled my sales from last year because I didn't sell anything.
Right.
So, how was your day?
Well,
we were delayed getting here, so
I was delayed getting here, and I believe, quote unquote, the text said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "I can't."
You said, "I'm not. Cat piss emergency. I'll let you know."
Yeah. So, I've been having issues with Floyd. He's the dumb white cat, and
you have two white cats and one black cat.
2 white cats and 1 black cat. That's probably why I'm having issues, because he knows that he's dumb, and he knows that I call him dumb. Anyway, one of them pissed on my couch like a week ago, and I still haven't gotten like the scent out. I don't. If anybody has any advice.
What material is the couch?
It's fucking leather. Which that I'm fine with, but the bottom part is like a...
the like cushion. It's like it like ran off the leather onto the...
Yeah, like
cushion.
What holds the cushion.
Ooh.
Like the base that holds the cushion, so that's great. I think I'm just gonna put baking soda on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had my Hudson Bay blanket on the couch because the cats really like to sleep on it. And guess what? I'm sitting there and Floyd comes up and he freaking pisses right on the blanket. This was a week ago.
What?
He just pisses right on the blanket. He's looking at me.
Why?
And I threw him off the couch. I don't know.
Are you cleaning out the litter boxes frequently enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They have 3. So I threw him off the couch. And then I think they've done this. He's done this with like all things soft, like towels. I've had to make sure that everything that is like a towel is in a basket that they can't get to because they'll pee in it. And
just Floyd or multiple of the cats? do that.
Lloyd kind of does it, but I don't know if he would do it now. And then today, everything was fine. My backpack was on the couch.
Oh no! Dang.
And I found it while I was talking to Josh on the phone, and I'm like, fuck. And then, thankfully, there's a dry cleaners literally spitting distance from my shop, like in the back. So I walked over there, and I was like, can you do this? And they're like, no, we don't clean backpacks. And I was like, what do I do? And she was like, just wash it off, get some like Dawn, and like soap it off. Because thankfully, which is really good, the part of the backpack that got the most pee on it, I guess, is the side, and it's waterproof.
Oh,
so
good spot, Floyd.
Good spot. But also the back, which is not waterproof. It's that like spongy material. So
yeah, you don't want it on that.
I threw it in the sink, and I just like washed it all, like just washed everything, and then it's hanging out to dry outside because it's a really nice day. So I put it outside of the office to dry.
Yeah, it's nice here too. And
by the way, if this was like a shitty backpack, I would just toss it. Like I wouldn't even worry.
Yeah, this is.
But this is a $200 backpack. Like,
dang.
And I use it daily. So it's a Timbuktu backpack, and it's like I love it.
Yeah.
And I just yeah.
Is that the one you brought to Claycon West?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have like a hook spot or something that you're gonna put your backpack on now so it doesn't get not
and I normally
laying?
put it yes. I normally put it on a hook, but the cats really like to lay on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Not anymore.
Lloyd does, at least. Not anymore. Lloyd does, and I'm like, whatever, it's cushiony, they like it.
Ruined it.
But fuckers. So that was my day. But other than that, cats pissing. And also I have to go get the blanket dry cleaned tomorrow. They're really slow, Hill Street Cleaners is, so
yeah.
I want to go support them a little bit. But other than that, I got the studio all cleaned. Everything's cleaned, mostly.
You're back to working, I saw.
And I'm back to working. So we made a very huge list.
Yes, I saw that. How many items were on that list?
Large list. Oh, we miscounted, by the way. Here, I'll find.
You
the
undershot
picture.
it, or you overshot it?
We undershot it for the quantities because Andrew accidentally put for the mugs and the wine glasses 200 times 100. He put 200. 20 times 100. He put 200 instead of $2,000. So, so quantity wise, it's 1,515 pieces. And cost wise, that adds up to about $17,000.
$17,000, and I liked he put potential on there.
Potential. We know that that's not
potential.
Realistic. But this is also just like the list to get me started, and then we'll kind of like find what sells and redo that. We got an email today. We're set to start May 4th, or the second weekend in May.
Really? I'm surprised. Yeah. Really surprised.
So
all of my shows in May have been canceled. So the next show that I'm looking for is on June 6th, and I'm waiting for that email to find out if it's canceled or not.
But this isn't like a regular show, too. It's not like people are... It all depends on people coming to Leavenworth for...
But, I mean, even though it's outdoor, you still have people gathering in multiple booths.
Right, I know, but
in
like...
proximity and stuff like that.
Right, but what I'm saying is it's not like people know that... They don't know that they're coming to the show, so it's not like...
But it still relies on people traveling to that city.
Yeah, it does rely on people traveling, but, like... Also, it's a continuous show, it's every weekend, so they want to get it up and running as quickly as possible because their income relies on our income, and I guarantee you that our artist rep, who makes the most money of all of us and is supported the most of all of it, from the show, like all he does is this show, he really, 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 really. Like, I can't even imagine.
But I mean, do you all have orders in place with gatherings of 10 or more people and stuff like that? Or 10 or fewer people and stuff like that for the state?
it lifts on May 4th. It lifts on May 4th.
As of today, I guess. Or as of the last time they updated it, right?
Right. So it's an optimistic outlook. So what I think they're doing is
You'll find something out in
like,
the next couple weeks, I'm sure, if they push that
I'm
out.
positive. Like, I was like, I texted a friend and was like, "Are we betting on how actually long it's gonna take us to get to Leavenworth?"
Right.
Like, this is what they've decided. I'm pretty positive it's gonna be
Right.
mid-June.
Yeah, we'll find out.
But Washington has been doing better than anybody else, I guess, for states.
Oh, well, that's good.
So, for as far as coronavirus goes,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for my June ones to start hitting. I think here in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks we'll start seeing if June shows are going to happen.
Yeah. I saw a bunch of, oh my God, there's like a bunch of artist pages and stuff and people signing up for shows and getting these emails saying like, we will absolutely not refund your money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask for a refund, you are like banned from our show for life.
Really? See, all of the ones that I've done and the ones that got canceled, either fully refunded or I decided to like push for the next year. So basically,
Right.
I just keep the same fee and I'm already in the show for next year. So
Yeah, I think that's great.
So that's what I was doing for
They'll
majority
take a
of them.
hit next year, but I think it's great.
Yeah. I think not having to jury again is nice for next year because I already paid that jury fee and stuff. And then I started looking at some other shows to like apply for that maybe I did last year or before that maybe didn't have as good of sales, but the entry fee or the jury fee was like nothing or $5 or something. So it was like worth the chance.
Totally.
All right. Should we get to what we're talking about or the listener questions?
Let's do listener questions.
Yeah. Y'all got a little extended intro today.
Sorry.
And also, I had something that I checked on today. So I looked at our reviews today. We got a couple new reviews, which were good.
Oh!
They were positive.
We did?
Yeah, we did. Do you
Read
look
them.
at? I don't. Honestly, I don't look at reviews that often.
I don't. Like,
We always,
obviously, I don't.
we
I'm
always
so
ask for the
excited.
reviews, and we put the little snippet at the end of the episodes to get the reviews, and definitely appreciate it because I look at them every
like,
so often.
That's like Christmas morning for me.
Yeah. We got 2 new ones since late February.
Cool.
Yeah, so looking good. You should look those up.
Are you going to read them?
Oh, do you want me to read them? Oh, okay.
Yeah, read them.
I'll read the last 3 since this one's from February 25th from Happy Dog Pottery. It said, I love the candid nature of Ryan and Becca. Their experiences and opinions on the business end have been really helpful to me as I navigate a new market and new selling avenues. Pottery can be so isolating, and while listening to the podcast, I forget for a minute that I'm not throwing side by side with them. They keep things honest and lighthearted, and I do appreciate it.
That one's nice.
Yeah, that one's from Happy Dog Pottery. These are all on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I guess is the new name for it. Do you want me to keep reading them, or should we like read one over the coming weeks or something? We can read it.
No, because everybody's just going to go look at them.
Yeah. So you do want me to read them or no?
I don't know.
I'll wait. Go ahead. Do you have your question pulled up? I have the questions on my side.
Yes.
All right, go for it.
Okay. My question is from Bella Joy Pottery. Hi, Heidi.
Heidi. She's also the one that does the Boldly podcast. So one of the hosts of the Boldly podcast.
Yeah.
So we like Heidi.
And right now, every day she's doing 5 things to be happy about, and it's like my favorite part of the day.
I just laugh so
Follow her
hard
on
when they don't
Instagram.
get in order.
I know, it's so funny. It's like the best part. Anyway, and she's so dry. It's so funny. Okay, let's talk finances. What is your annual salary you pay to yourself, and how did you come to that number? What tools do you use to save money for an emergency fund? So I'm going to answer this because Ryan obviously has a full-time job, and so he doesn't need to pay himself. nor does he.
And you kind of talked
Um,
about this in the 2020 or 2019 goals episode when we recapped,
We
because I
did.
kind of remember us talking about that.
Yeah, but I'll say kind of like what I do. So, I mean, I guess the jury's kind of out on if this is the right way to do it, but this is how my bookkeeper told me to do it and accountant. But I take owner's draws out of my, um, out of just, I just do large chunks of money when, and basically I expense almost everything that I can. If I buy something and it stays in the studio, that's a business expense. So I expense basically everything. And and then and so I probably take out about $1,000 a month for living expenses on my end.
And that's everything outside of like mortgage and rent for the studio, all that stuff. The $1,000 is just to pay for your food and like things like that you need.
Right. So the $1,000 covers my food, my gas.
Do you do like mileage on your stuff for the business at the end of the year for taxes? So you don't always consider gas is just part of your expenses. It's not part of your business expenses, I guess.
Right. So gas is oh geez.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find my. Yes. So gas is just I do the mileage at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and I usually get like 10,000 miles. So, but yeah. So that's basically like food, and I eat out a lot because I eat out at local restaurants, and I don't have a real kitchen, and then gas, and then I don't even know what the rest of it's for.
You probably don't.
Oh.
You probably don't pay for like internet and stuff because that's all part of the business, right?
Right. So, I have I pay for vitamins, and like my big expenses are like I pay vitamins monthly, and I pay for like a health, like I go get. It's not a massage, but it's something. It's like 4 times a week.
It's like
4 times a
chiropractic
month.
kind of stuff.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like that. And so.
Yeah, so like your fun money, your bare essentials, your
Right.
clothing,
And
food.
I also pay, I think I pay off a credit card, and I pay off my credit card every single month. But so it's about $15,000 to $20,000 a year is what I live off of. That does not include my rent, by the way, for where I sleep. So if you were to add that, my rent is extremely low for where I sleep, which is $300 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, it's not exciting.
So you could add
so-
that as part of your expenses potentially, and say
Yeah.
you pay yourself $15,000 plus,
Yeah.
$300 times 12.
And yep, that's pretty much it. But I could probably pay myself more if I wanted to. I also use an app called Digit. I think that's what it's called. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, it's called Digit, and that's what I use as my savings account for rainy day fund and for emergencies, because I'm not too great at saving.
So Digit,
And
is
it's hard-
that a pool of money that you're putting in, or it looks at your bank account and you can like kind of simulate a separate emergency fund or something?
Yeah, so it pulls it from your bank account, but it pulls it in small doses. And so, but over the last year and a half, I think that I was at probably about zero, and now I have $696 in my vacation fund, $342 in my rainy day fund, and $401 in my retirement. So,
okay. So you just tell
so
it how many dollars per month to put into which pot.
no, I don't. It just, what it does is it kind of looks at your bank account and it says, I think I can pull $12 without it making a huge impact
Okay.
on your bank account. And so it does that kind of like on the daily.
Oh. And you just tell it kind of what allocation you want for those different funds? How does it know
Right.
how much you want to spend on vacation, for instance, I guess?
Oh, you can set a cap. So like for my vacation, which I don't think I would ever spend on a vacation, but my goal is $2,000.
Okay.
And
That's cool.
for
So
my
it kind of silently takes care of some of that behind the scenes, so you
Yeah.
don't have to consciously think about it.
Totally. And I guess the way that they make money is that they end up investing the money that you have in offshore accounts, and then they get money from that. And so that's kind of what you're
So do you have,
basically.
is that money liquid? Can you withdraw that money at any time, or do you
Yes.
have, okay.
Yeah, it is liquid, but I mean, if they went under, I'm assuming no.
So you're
But
saying that money's actually might be invested in like mutual funds or something like that?
probably.
Okay.
I mean, that's how they make money in those things.
It's kind of
right?
like, it sounds like an Acorns account. I have that. That's where
Yeah,
they,
it's like that.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So how did you come to that number? Did you just go based on, figuring out your budget, what your expenses are, what you need to live on, and that's kind of how you came to that $15,000 for the
Yeah.
year?
When I don't really do a budget anymore, just because I kind of spend the same amount of money every month. But also I should mention that I'm not like super stingy on the way I live anymore. I still, well, to some people I guess I am, but yeah, what I do is I kind of look at my bank account, and if like my credit card is getting to a point where it's like over $400, I might pull $500 and pay off my credit card.
Mm-hmm.
And if the business account is getting to a point where I feel comfortable pulling $1,000, then I'll pull $1,000. And that way it's already out of the account. Because the way I do it is I will never, ever put money from my personal account into my business account. Business account into personal, totally fine. But I'm not going to do it the other way around. So once it's gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and I think that just over time I've kind of known that like $1,000, like $600 to $1,000 is kind of what I live off of comfortably.
Okay.
So I'm not normal too. I feel like I'm.
And you're also single, and you don't have dependents, and like
Right.
your whole, I feel like your whole life is like pottery in the studio, and like that's majority of your day to day. Like that's,
Right.
I mean, I don't see you day to day, but like from my perspective, that's what it kind of seems like.
No, that's pretty much it.
So, I mean, you kind of become your business, and you're so embedded in it that
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah, and I also trade for food, and I've got some pretty sweet deals around town. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I do not pay myself anything. All of the money that I make from sales goes directly back into that savings or the checking account for the business. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sorry, I was testing.
Okay. So Becca was like, do you want to share how much you have in that account? So I have like $26,000 in that account for the ceramic business that I save.
Basically, like more than any of us.
So that's so I can, obviously I have to pay the like income taxes and all that kind of thing. And then I like to have money available to spend it when I need it. I don't think I've ever taken money out and put it in my personal account because I don't need to.
Well, I think that is like literally the best thing that you could ever do as a side business.
Yeah. So
if you don't need to pay yourself.
Yeah. And I don't see the ceramic sales as like, ooh, that's extra money, because I don't need that money, whether it comes from ceramic sales or not. I feel like saving that money is going to allow me to have a cushion when I do need to buy a new kiln if my kiln dies or something like that. So essentially,
Oh my God, I cannot.
essentially that amount of money is like my emergency fund for the business.
I can't wait for you to get a brand new kiln. I'm so excited for you when you get a brand new kiln, and I'm gonna make you get like a really nice one.
So, and Becca keeps
If
getting on
you
me about
haven't-
these equipment and stuff to
The
get.
slab roller?
Yeah. So what tools do I use to save money? I don't spend money on things that I don't need, and that even though I had the money there, I don't spend it. I'm very frugal,
Yeah,
100% of the
He's
time.
like the most frugal person I've ever met.
So I try not to be like luxurious with my spending, even though there's money there to be spent.
It's okay if you're listening to this. You're normal. It's fine. He's abnormal.
But yeah, I try to be conscious of, and as I spend money, you know, I'm documenting every expense that I'm making into a spreadsheet so I can always get a pulse on where I'm at, income, outcome, you know, what my balance looks like for the year and where I'm trending. So, you know, it's not a big deal if I need to spend $500 on clay because I have the money to spend that on clay.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I can pay more money or spend more money on stuff like that to save me more money by like buying in bulk. For instance,
Right.
if people can't do that and they can only buy clay once a month and buy 500 pounds, then they can't benefit from that like bulk discount. So I kind of
Right.
use that to help me save money.
Yeah. No, I think that the way that you do it is actually a really great way. And to not think about that money as money that you can spend or should spend is actually really great. And the fact that you're not spending any money from your personal money to fund your
Hobby,
Hobby.
habit,
hobby,
small business.
hobby.
I mean, it's a clay habit, I guess. I don't know.
To fund your clay hobby, which is, I think that's the most ideal thing that you could get to, right? And if you decided just out of the whim, like eventually you're like, screw clay, I never want to do this, then you can go on a really bomb ass vacation.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only time that I did put personal into that money is when I first invested in like
Right.
creating an account for the business, and I think I put like $1,500. I think we mentioned this before, but I put like $1,500 in it or something,
You're right.
and that was before everything was separate. So now everything is separate. Everything that goes in and out is all on the business checking account and has a separate PayPal account. I have a separate Venmo account that I use only for the business stuff, so that I keep everything separate. I don't have to cross mingle the accounts.
Totally. And that's how everybody should be, by the way. You should always you should never mix your business and your pleasure.
Yeah. Especially if
always
you
do
haven't
that
like paid the taxes on stuff yet. Like if you still need to make quarterly payments and estimates, like you shouldn't be taking money out that you don't have that needs to go
Remember,
to the
that's
tax
the
man,
government's
you know?
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we talked so much at length about money there. Should we even? I guess we should go to the next one because it filters into what we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
30 minutes in.
Well, I think that it'll be a shorter segment anyway, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. So thanks, Heidi, for that question. This question comes from Explore Wellness on Instagram. Says, I'm a beginner and my pottery class has been canceled for a while and I have no access to a kiln. But the good news is that I have my wheel and small studio space set up at home. So hopefully a lot of people are doing that. Any tips on preserving greenware until it can be fired and projects to work on while I wait for the studio to open?
This doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing.
It does. It could. The very end part, the projects to work on while I wait for the studio open. You want to
Okay,
talk
fine,
about a
fine,
topic.
fine.
It's very thin, but I can relate the two.
He's reaching a bit.
So how would you? I never went through the process of transporting greenware. I would imagine it's a damn nightmare and very frustrating to transport greenware and bisqueware, or not bisqueware as much, but like bone dry and greenware stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like leather hard, I would say is probably the ideal state that you would want to transport stuff, like a hard leather hard.
Hard leather hard would be great, but that is not that's not ever going to be the case.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you would have to like seal your stuff in like crazy and like keep it sprayed in a damp box. And
yeah,
I would definitely encourage.
Don't shoot for that.
Would you say they should make damp boxes or something though to retain some items? No, just let it.
Make damp boxes if you're working on them, But no, for transporting greenware, I think that the best and the easiest way is, okay, there's a couple ways. One, if a cheap, super free option is now I'm going to get very specific here. Costco has vegetable cardboard boxes. They are the pepper ones. They have green, red, and yellow peppers on the sides. There's also the tomato ones. The tomato ones aren't tall enough. You want the
What
pepper
brand
ones.
name is this box?
I don't know, but they have...
What is the name of the person
can't-
I need to go see so that I can get...
Yeah. They have a purple logo, I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive about that. Don't quote me. But they are the pepper boxes. They're like banana boxes. They're extremely sturdy. Those ones are the ones that I would probably recommend transporting your greenware in. Now,
And why? What if people don't make the same shapes that you make?
Right. If you don't want to spend any money at all, that's what I'm saying. Just because that's a free option.
Given that you have a Costco membership.
I mean, I don't know.
Or you know
Ask
somebody
a
that goes to
friend.
Costco.
Yeah. I don't have a Costco membership. But, so that's good. And I mean, obviously, smaller pieces are going to make it faster. Anything without extruding hands or little feet or anything like that will probably make it a little bit better. When I was transporting a plethora of mugs and stuff back and forth from like 30 miles, I would double box I had some Rubbermaids, and I would put one Rubbermaid in another Rubbermaid, and so there was like 2 inches of space so that when I picked it up, it didn't bow.
Okay.
Because
that
Rubbermaid...
Yeah.
Rubbermaids, when you pick them up and they're heavy, it bows a little bit, and then when you set it back down, it's going to bow again. So if you can keep it stable at all time, that's ideal. So I would always double bin them.
And that's because the pieces that are adjacent to each other, the sides are going to crush in on each other, and they're going to touch.
Exactly. Yeah. So so keep that in mind. You don't really want the bottom moving. That's why I said specifically about the cardboard, because it's very sturdy. Or tamale boxes from a Mexican grocery store. Those are also very good.
Very specific.
Well, you know, I have a specific...
What did you pad them with?
I think you could pad them with almost anything. You could do towels, paper,
Old
cardboard,
t-shirts.
a t-shirt, anything soft, foam. If you have foam.
You should definitely keep the foam from... Well, I guess you didn't have access to a kiln, so you would not have witness kiln boxes with foam in them. That's what I use when I like go demo something and I throw pots.
Yeah.
I use the thin foam from the witness kiln boxes.
Yeah. I like my main rule of thumb, if you're doing larger pieces, I usually just put them out in the back of my car, like just on the floor, and like kind of like cushion them around with with towels and stuff. And drive like you have a baby in it.
Yeah, drive very carefully.
Yeah. But we are trying to figure out... I was asking Ryan earlier if he thought, because we read the question, if he thought maybe like par baking kind of the clay would make it stronger. And so we're going to research that. We don't know for sure.
She's saying like basically put it in your oven and cook it to like 500 degrees or something like that. Like, would that make it stronger? Because there are gases that are,
right.
I guess, off-gassed at like 200 degrees, you know, when steam happens. So,
right.
Trying to figure out if that actually makes a difference, but we're going to research that.
Yeah, I'm like, we're wondering if that would actually like
strengthen it or help it or
firm
not.
it up a little bit, you know, or it might make it more brittle. You never know.
I mean, why would you think it's not possible for them to wrap things in like grocery bags to keep them as close to soft as they can? You're just saying give up on it and let it go bone dry. I would say if you can,
because it's like
don't
so
let it go
much
bone.
time.
But if you're just
We have like months.
you're making like 500 pieces or 1,500 pieces. What if these people are making like 30 pieces?
Okay, fine. Keep them. Yes, transporting them at leather hard would be ideal.
Yeah. because they can give a little bit. They're not gonna. They could bump into each other a little bit,
but not too soft. Then you're really in a disaster.
Yeah, then they're gonna dent and all that. That's why we say leather hard or like hard leather hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then projects to work on while I wait for the studio to open. Cue Becca's topic for today.
Oh yeah.
She's like, I thought we were done. Are we done yet? What projects would you encourage them to work on?
I would encourage you to work on anything that involves your creativity. You're at home. You have weird things available to you. Use a plate as a mold, or use, like when you're doing hand building, or, find tools around your house that you're like, hey, maybe this will work for this. I would encourage as much growth and learning as you can in this time, like especially when you're home and you have unlimited time. You have unlimited time to mess up, so now's the time. Like, mess up as much as you can so you can figure out what works for you and what is efficient for you, and stuff like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say, I thought you were going to go with hand building stuff, but yeah, I would say the only limit I guess you have is to how much clay you have to work with. And some places, I guess you can still pick up clay and order clay and stuff. So maybe you're not limited to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about, because I still have access to everything that I had access to before. So I'm not in this mode where I have to figure out and shoehorn projects or forms into something that I think would be sellable. Or, I mean, you don't even have to make things that are sellable, too. But yeah, I think...
Can you still get clay?
I think I think Queen City Clay just started up where they're doing some deliveries and maybe pickup. 1 day a week or 2 days a week. I think 2 days a week they're delivering. So you can order certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can still get supplies, and there's a lot of places that are doing tutorials and stuff online. So take advantage of all those tutorials. Like if you wanted to learn a new technique or try something different, there's so many free learnings that you would typically have to pay for. So take advantage of all of that. I would say that would be good. Try some new techniques that you haven't tried before if you have access to a wheel or hand building. I saw this cool technique about somebody that was building like little ceramic egg holders that I think I sent you that from Queen City Clay. They were doing it, so it's pretty cool. And I think
and remember, nobody's watching you or judging you. That's the best part about this.
Yeah, that's great. Or you can
mess up as bad as you want, and nobody's going to judge you except for yourself. So give yourself some grace.
Yeah, do some project with your kids or other people in your house that don't know anything about clay, and you can kind of teach them a little bit, and
they can think you're the shit.
Yeah, you could be the teacher.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
We're talking about the differences. Oh, how did I say it? It was good this morning. The differences between hand building and throwing and...
do 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 do.
Shh. Did I text you on, was it, it was Instagram, dang it. So the difference between...
So slow, Becca.
I know, I'm sorry. Like, how you can kind of like utilize hand building and the efficiency differences between hand building and throwing.
Yeah, so personally, I feel like I'm so much more efficient in wheel throwing. If I was hand building, I feel like I would be so much more... There'd be so much more scrutiny on the individual pieces and time that I have to focus on individual things. So I feel like it would take me way longer and be less efficient.
Right. And I think like what the root of why I wanted to talk about this was because I've been really getting into hand building recently, and I'm trying to decide kind of what's faster, what's more efficient, what's more beneficial. and what people like more, but also like what I enjoy more. So like right now in this stage of life, I really enjoy hand building, and I think I figured out why.
I from what I've seen you make, you're doing this kind of assembly line sort of process, and you kind of got the groove, and
I do love production.
you don't have to get your hands wet. You just
that's it.
That's it. Oh really? Is that the whole thing?
That's it.
You're like, my hands aren't wet. I'm good. Dry hands suck.
I think that's it. It's so much cleaner.
Really?
And I am not that I don't mind getting messy. I don't mind getting messy, but after a while, wet clay really gets on my nerves. And hand building involves no water. And that's really great. But,
except like a damp sponge, but I mean that's manageable. You're not adding excess water and
and most of the time I don't even use a damp sponge. So it's but I wanted to talk about that, and then like I use thrown molds to hand build with, and kind of wanted to do that.
Yeah, so what have you been how have you been prepping for the hand building kind of process that you've kind of laid out for yourself, the quantities of things you're making? How did you come up with like, hey, I need to make a mold or something like that?
Right. I think that like I started off with a few molds back in the day, and I give Rebecca Graves full credit for this. I had never even thought about doing a bisque mold until I'd met her. And she threw some bowls, and that's what her employees were using to press down into foam to make hand-built bowls that she calls wobble bowls. And so I started doing that with a bisque ornament.
Okay.
And those were the mise en place bowls, and those basically became one of my best sellers last year. And they're cheap, they're easy to make. They're a piece of cake. And so then from there, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could make. One of my wholesalers said, "Can you make plates for me?" And I was like, okay, this is a plant wholesaler. So she wanted plates for the bottom of planters. Mm-hmm. And so they had to be the same dimensions.
Were they for
inside.
Your planters, or were for some other pieces that are not yours?
Just general plates, yeah.
Okay. So
she just sells them as plates for under planters.
Okay.
They fit my planters as well, but the purpose was just to have something. Mm-hmm. Because apparently it's hard to find plates for planters.
You know what? That's the main thing that I can see myself hand building, because I have all of these planters that I've been making, and I was assuming that I was going to put them with macrame and they don't need a plate. But I'm like, I can sell these without, but if they just have a hole in the bottom, then they're not as good because they need something underneath it.
They need a plate.
So I've been wheel throwing what I call planter trays. They're basically just smaller spoon rests.
Yeah.
And they're the same amount of clay, and I just throw all of them. I've been pretty efficient. I've probably made like 150 or 200 of them in the last month, but they add up in time.
They do add up in time. So I think that the difference for me really is that I really hate the prepping process of throwing. I love the throwing process, but the prepping process is really hard for me. So like pugging clay. We all know that me and my pug mill hate each other. And like weighing out the clay, and then getting that clay to the wheel, and then getting a bucket of water, and then like doing all these things. It's like such a process to get going. And then once you get going, then you still have to
do the actual work.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to do the actual work. And you're in one spot all the time. So you're sitting in one space all the time. And I think that what I found with hand building is that I can do fun little things that are a little bit more creative, but still take that production level up. But there's not as much process beforehand. There is the making of the slabs, but what's cool about that is that you can cut a piece right off the block, right?
That's true. It's already in a depending on
Right,
how
like
thick you cut it is going to depend on how big your slab's going to be. And
right. So like cutting it right off the block is um going to sorry, somebody called me, which means that somebody's at my box. Um so cutting it off the block is just skipping like 3 steps, you know? And then I got that vertical slab roller
right.
that's been like I hate it sometimes, but I have a tendency to overwork items. I want them to perform at the capacity that I can perform, which is not realistic. Yeah. But and so I was thinking about it last night, and I was making a bunch of bowls, and I made 30 bowls, and I can't remember when I started, but I didn't time the whole thing, but doing the whole process of making the slabs, cutting out the slabs, putting the slabs by the wheel, and then assembling the bowls. I think it probably took about the same amount of time as throwing.
But it was more enjoyable.
It was a little bit more enjoyable, but the difference, I think, is that once they're done, they're done.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to worry about them being leather hard before cleaning them or trimming them. I can just they can dry all the way, and I can wipe off the rims, and that's it. And I think that
Did you sign them all already too, or do you do that?
I stamp them when they're wet.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think that that's kind of like the cool thing about hand building is that they're so much more complete at a much earlier stage.
Yeah.
Than throwing, unless you don't trim at all.
Yeah, the time from, I guess, wet hands completion.
Yeah.
Or like wet clay completion to putting it into a bisque kiln is a lot shorter of a time frame.
Yeah.
And you don't have to touch it again. You don't have to do a light trim or a sponge on the bottom edge or sand the bottom or sign it or anything like that.
Right. And with something like hand building, the reality of getting something that's more similar, if you make 2 pieces, if you measure those out correctly, they're going to be pretty damn similar,
Because the slab builds consistency. It's the same thickness all the way through because of the slab. And then if you use a cookie cutter to cut out your 5-inch circle, it's always going to be the same amount. The dryness or wetness of the clay, I mean, that should be consistent because it's from the same bag of clay.
Same bag. Exactly. And so, like, as far as beginners go, making a slab-built plate and having, like, a whole set of slab-built plates is going to be a lot more satisfying right off the bat than throwing something and, like, kind of getting up to that and being like, why is this plate 2 inches shorter than this plate?
Right.
And I mean, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't throw, because I still love throwing, and this is not a bash on throwing by any means at all.
Because all I do is throw.
Because all he does is throw. No. It's just kind of like we don't really talk about hand building very much. And
I think
they don't get a lot of...
It's not sexy, I don't think. Like, it
Which
doesn't get enough play.
Dumb. You know what happened is I have one of my really good friends. He took a class from me. We did a trade. And he took a class from me, and he, for years, like ever since I've been doing it, he's always put down hand building. He's like, well, hand building is so easy, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like, whatever. And he did a class, he did throwing, and it was hard, of course. He wasn't bad by any means. He was actually pretty good. And then I was like, well, he does my hair. And then I was like, well, come over and make some plates, like hand build some plates. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, no, trust me, you will love it. And so we start the process, and he was like, I want to do a whole set now. This is so much fun. Like, this is so much better. And he's a very meticulous person.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be bad at hand building, by the way. It is very.
I would say. Would you say it's like the the slightest, like the touch, like having the right amount of touch and sensitivity to how to touch the clay so that it does what you want and you're not overworking it or.
Like, I can set a piece down, I can set a garden stake down, and there's no fingerprints on it at all. If somebody that I just taught how to do garden stakes sets a garden stake down, there's going to be, like, divots and fingerprints and, like, nicks out of it, and it's going to look completely different.
Right.
So you do have to have a certain amount of finesse.
Yeah.
Like, it does take talent. but you know, he was like totally changed by the end of it. He was like, that was so much fun. Like, I want to do that again. And I'm like, see, it just gets such a bad rap. And I feel like it's like really cool still.
I think you're swaying me a little bit to do some more hand building.
Yes.
I need to make these planter trays. And I think
I think it would be such a fun project for you.
And I think it would be cool to see hand-built ones with the wheel-thrown planters. I think they would totally go together because the tray is not...
Oh, they do.
And when I throw the tray, it's not completely flat on the bottom. It's like usually I put some texture in it, so I put like a spiral or whatever, and it's not exactly flat. It's going to have that kind of slight curve to it. Because it's like a spoon rest, and I push up the edge so that I bring the little lip up. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, maybe. Well,
and it's kind of fun. It's fun to, like, challenge yourself, you know, as we were talking about earlier about challenging yourself, especially right now when we are all home. Like, challenge yourself to make a plate mold, you know? That was the first set of molds that I made.
Ooh, yeah. So what do you mean by that? What's the benefit between what are the different kind of molds you can do? Some molds are production molds that are
I think most of us know GR pottery forms, which are fantastic. Those are compressed hardboard.
Okay.
Are they MDF, I think?
It's kind of that material. So
I think it's MDF and it's an inch. 3/4 inch.
Okay.
And they angle cut it, and so those are actually the same material that my wear boards are made out of. They intake water really well and release really well. So when you lay your piece down, it like sucks up the moisture and then it releases really easily. Now, if you were to throw a plate onto just a regular plate, like a shiny plate, you know, like one that's already glazed, and you just put clay in there, it's going to stick. You would have to put Pam on it, some sort of like spray oil.
Some kind of release agent.
Some sort of release agent to
like cornstarch or something
off.
Like that. That's
cornstarch won't work actually on shiny stuff because then it just sucks it all in.
Oh.
Cornstarch you use for stamps. But yeah, so like you need something that's going to suck up the moisture but like release. So you've either got wood, plaster, bisque. Okay, so you could make a plaster mold easy. You know, you could use you could pour some plaster in the bottom of a little tiny bucket and make a little tiny plaster mold.
But getting the form that you want would be more difficult. Or you would have to pour it inside of something that you're fine that it matches whatever that is, and then you'd have to sand it or refine it.
Exactly. Or, and plaster sucks up a lot more moisture than bisque does, and it lasts probably maybe a little bit longer, I would say, as far as moisture is concerned. So, like, you could probably get a lot more pieces out of a plaster mold before it starts, like, sticking to it because it's so wet. And then, or you can throw a bisque mold. And so, like, the way I throw mine is I throw them on bats, and so they're completely flat on the bottom, and then just trim off the sides.
Are they hollow?
And
are they are they hollowed off closed forms that you're throwing, or are they semi-solid?
No, they are. So my plate mold looks just like a shallow bowl, essentially, wide bowl.
Okay, so you throw it upright, and then you're trimming it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
I put a little rim on there so I can have a handle. My bowl mold has a handle on the inside. It's got a little thingy so I can... And the weight is really nice, and the thicker the better, because the more moisture it can hold in is better.
And you're using those molds as press molds, right? Not.
Yeah, and so we use those, and then you cut out your circle or whatever, and you put it on a piece of foam, and then you press the mold down into the foam, and then the piece of clay takes on the shape of.
Yeah, so the mold is pushing inside the piece, as opposed to was it a slump mold, where you would place the piece inside of a mold, and then they would take on the out.
A slump mold. I guess it's a hump mold, yeah. Hump mold versus slump mold.
I thought a hump mold would be still the convex, and then you would drape it over it.
You hump it over. Yeah, we're talking about hump molds. A slump mold is when you put it on the inside. And I haven't done any of those yet, but I did one. I have 3 huge bowls and platters that I'm drying extremely slowly.
I've tried that before with a pillowcase inside of like a cardboard box. I like taped the pillowcase.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And then I kind of draped it inside. So I do have one mold that I made that was a wet slab that I draped in there, but I never used it after that. It's bisque, but I haven't used it.
The way that I do hand building is very Becca style. It's not like, there's no frills, there's no like stamping or anything, but you can get really creative with how much you like put texture on it and everything like that.
And you're using that mold as a quick way to get a consistent form. You're not keeping the clay on there for a long time. You're just getting it for the shape. You're pushing it into
right away I take it off.
Yeah, into that, and it gives you a nice way to get the shape, and then it releases quickly, and then you could just put it onto a board and be done with it.
Yeah. And then once it's dry, I clean the rim off with a sponge.
When you say dry, are you saying like leather hard dry or bone dry or?
Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I try not to touch them until they're done though.
Okay.
Because they can warp. Now, I don't mind a little warpage either. That's another thing, Sometimes these things warp.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out what works for you and what's not going to warp and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's just fun. And everybody can do it.
Yeah, I like
carpal tunnel, you can do hand building.
I like the efficiency part. I can just see you starting with a lump of or a block of clay, cutting off a slab, throw it in the slab roller, rolling it out, and then you're just gonna cookie cutter like bam, 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 pull off the excess, re-wedge it, whatever, and then you just gotta.
I don't re-wedge it.
And then you
just put it off.
You throw it
and then I
pug mill or something.
Yeah.
And then you have a stack of the flapjacks, which is what I saw recently.
Yes.
And then you just
with flapjacks he's talking about is that when I do bowls or plates or tiny mise en place bowls, I will cut out 50
of these flat
circles, and I just stack them right on top of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess you could always do that. Like if you were just doing one day, you could put those in a damp box and just do all of that.
Yeah.
That could be considered your prep work if you're breaking that stuff up. And then you can just spend the next day or another couple hours later to press them all and do that actual forming and decorating and stuff like that.
Right. And also I was talking to Rebecca last night about I wonder if you could put some sort of fabric that has a texture on it in the slab roller with your piece, and if you like, because usually
like a piece of lace or
fabric,
a doily or something like that,
or like if you laser cut something with polka dots in it, or something like that, and usually you just roll over the piece with like a rolling pin, but sometimes it doesn't get very like consistent.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could just put that, like, do the slab, and while it's still at the same height, put your texture on top and then roll it through again.
Probably.
And then you would have
and
then you would have the texture. But
they do have those rolling pins that have texture on them too. So if like somebody was hand rolling a slab, and then you like roll it at this thickness, and then you have a like ruler or a piece of wood that's a little thinner, then you would just thin it out and then roll it again.
Yeah, totally. Those are awesome. Those rolling pins with texture.
I'm sure those aren't cheap though.
No, they're like $30. But if you make 5 platters and sell those for $30 each, you paid for that roller. So
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on if you're gonna use it or if it's just gonna sit and you're not gonna use it.
Yeah. We just had Jennifer Allen in town for a workshop, and she was showing people how she uses roulettes, and she like creates textures on a circle that has something on it that she can roll over.
Oh, nice. Is she doing that with a 3D printer?
No, she's doing it in clay. So she makes it in clay and then she
Oh.
bisques it. So kind of like you're using a bisque mold, she uses it in bisqued
Yeah.
as a roller.
I did a
and
bisque.
You kind of roulette it.
Yeah, I did a bisque like roller with a polka dots on it, but it was so thin and it dropped on the ground.
Ooh, yeah. So you could easily
But I
like
think
use
you
the
could do
slab
that.
and roll some of those textured, and they're very unique to you. So you're not getting something that everyone else has. Like I think
Right.
NKM Tools has some of those dowels with the texture.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like, I mean, yeah, just think of the possibilities. Like, just the tools alone you can make like hand building. Just like stamping and those rolly things. Like, there's a lot of things you could do.
I did have one question when you were talking about the efficiency with your prep work for the wheel. Why do you have to cut the clay off? Do you cut all of your clay off of the block and throw it in the pug mill? Why would you not cut it off and measure it and do all that thing?
My clay is not very soft all the time.
So it's like harder on the outside, softer on the inside kind of thing, so it's not consistent?
No, it's just like, it's just more firm
Oh, okay.
in general.
So it needs to move a
And-
little bit and kind of get worked in. And
Yeah, I like to power wedge it. And actually, like,
what is that for the pug mill auger? Is that what you mean by power wedge? Okay.
yeah, power wedging is basically you just throw in the whole block, mix it for 4 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever, and then just pug it out. But it just becomes a lot more efficient and effective. And yes, and also then I don't have to weigh clay.
Do you use a measuring device for cutting it off the
Yes.
pug?
Yeah, so I have so every inch is 8 ounces of a pug mill if it's from a Peter Pugger. So
That's because it's de-aired. You know there's no air pockets in there. And
right, and Bailey I think is a 3-inch auger, so it's a bit different. But yeah, so every 8 inches 8 ounces, and so I just cut, and I have little markers, and I go over and then I cut them,
Yeah.
and it's really quick. Like if I can get the pugging done, if somebody comes in and pugs for me and fills up my fridge that holds all my pugs clay, it's like a piece of cake. Like the prep to throwing is nothing.
Could you foresee yourself using that pugged clay and cut those into little slabs that you then use on your press molds?
I have done that, yes.
Okay. Is it a little
So
more
I have done
fragile
that.
with the thickness?
No, like
Or is it not as compressed and like
the way I used to do it, because I used to make soap dishes that are out of slabs, and I made this like weird little template with straws, and you had to like push in the thing so that it had like a little wavy bottom, and so they needed to be like a certain size. And so what I would do before I had my vertical slab roller, what I would do is I would take all of the pugged pieces and I would put them in a checkerboard pattern on the slab roller and roll them all through at the same time, and then turn them and then roll them through again.
Yeah.
And they would all be kind of like the same size.
Oh, okay.
So that works, especially if you want something super organic, but you want it to be the same size. You can just cut or measure out 10 ounces in a ball and then put it on there and then flatten them out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you can
And it's so satisfying to see it.
I can see I don't know, I feel like you get more immediate gratification as you're finishing pieces hand building than wheel throwing, because it feels satisfying when you see the board of like spoon rests, for instance, or bowls or whatever, where you have a bunch of bats with pieces on them, but they still need attention the next day or down the road.
Right.
And you have to figure out how to cover them up. I mean, that's satisfying to see it, but I feel like you could get more satisfying feeling when you see a board that's done, that's like, okay, this is done.
Right. Like, all I have to do is wait for
That
it
time
to
that I spent today,
yeah.
I have a finished product that is ready for the kiln in, let's say the next day or 2 days or whatever,
Right.
based on your drawing.
As far as, like, mise en place bowls versus pinch pots that I do off of the hump, I would take a mise en place any day of the week.
And do they sell for like half the price of your pinch pots?
Yeah. But they sell more.
Yeah.
If you put them side by side, people are going to go to the mise en place because they don't care.
The only thing I wonder about some of that stuff is how have you been glazing them? Are you waxing the bottoms and stuff for the hand-built pieces that are,
Most
or the
of
mise en
hand-built
place?
pieces, I'll glaze the whole thing and then I'll drag them. Like the mise en place, I glaze the whole thing and I just set them down on the tables and then I drag them across the, I have like a little piece of carpet.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes off the glaze on the bottom.
I feel like that would be the most, with the planter trays, I feel like that would eat up the most amount of material or like time, would be having to wax all of them.
With plates,
Yeah.
I don't wax anything. So with plates, I take them and I pour half of the glaze on top and then I turn it and I pour half the glaze on the other side. And it never touches the bottom.
Pour. Okay.
So, like, I pour it over it so that it actually doesn't touch the bottom of the plate. It's just touching the inside.
Okay.
So the sides of the plate isn't glazed.
I'm going to need to try that technique.
I'll show you.
Because that would save me from having to wax the bottoms. Because waxing all the bottoms, and then even though they get little dribbles, I use the tongs and dunk them.
You should glaze them like that, even if they're thrown. What was I going to say? Oh, also, I think that one of the reasons that I really love doing the hand building is because I think with throwing, I'm good at it, right? Like, I'm used to it. It's something that has no challenge at all anymore. Mm-hmm. There's nothing.
You're like, what am I making? All right, let's do it.
Right. Like, and I'm talking about my everyday project. Like, if you gave me a project that was like a crazy teapot or something, that would be challenging. But, like, for me to make 40 mugs is not a challenging feat. It might be tiring, but it's not challenging. And so what's cool about the hand building is that it's got so many different things, and the act of hand building is not challenging, but the possibilities of what you can do with a mold or making a mold is challenging. Like, I made a mold for a cup, and it has a lip that stops the cup so that every cup is the same height.
Okay.
And, like, width and everything. And so, like, that is, like, a puzzle for me, and that's, like, really exciting.
Is that like the inside of, like, a Tervis tumbler?
What?
Like a two-part, think of, like, a Tervis tumbler that's, like, a two-part cup that's
mold?
insulated. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Basically, it's, like, the tumbler without the outside skin on it. So it has, like, a lip that's wide, and then it's got the inner form. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's got a consistent
And it took me like a minute to make one of the cups, and it was done, And like,
you're gonna put a slab around it and then join the slab and then put a bottom on it?
Put a slab around it and then put a bottom on it.
Okay.
And when you have the mold, and I was talking to Rebecca, and she used to make mugs like this or cups like this for somebody else. And when you have a mold under it, you can like press it hard really good so that you don't have to worry about like it moving or anything like that. So, and you don't have to put as much slip in because you're putting so much pressure on joining the.
Are you talking about when you join the inside part of the bottom?
Both.
Okay.
The sides and the top. But anyway, it's just like there's so many puzzles and challenges that you have to like overcome, and like I really like to see how I can be as efficient as possible. I figured that out with throwing, but
yeah,
I haven't figured it out with hand building, and that's kind of exciting.
I have been enjoying the only, I guess, hand building ish part has been the the planters I've been making recently, I've been using those wooden stamps with the
Yeah.
cornstarch, and like that's been pretty nice process. So once the clay's at the right consistency, I'm like, okay, now I got to put the stamps on these 30
like those.
planters, and like getting the process of the cornstarch and the stamp and like
Yeah, it's
picking
fun.
which
It's like
stamp
it
I
just-
want to do is kind of fun.
It just adds a little bit of a different feel to it, and it's nice.
I didn't know that you were going to favor the no wet hands so much, but I can see the appeal.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I just like,
And it's not like you're working in like a basement studio that's freezing all the time. So it's
Right.
like, oh, I need warm water. But I do like not having to like wipe my hand. I would not
I think
not
that's
having
what
to
it
wipe
is.
my hands and find like a towel that's not got clay dust all over it, or a
Yeah.
apron that's got clay all over it.
yeah. I also like the fact that you can move around. Like I'm walking around. I'm getting a little bit more exercise, which is nice. Like my back doesn't hurt as much unless the table's too short. But like, it's,
Do your
I don't
feet
know.
hurt? Because you said before that if you had a wheel that was possible to stand up and throw, could you stand up and throw? Because I thought you said your feet cannot withstand the long process.
yeah, my feet do hurt, but yes, they do hurt. It's been getting better. My foot has been getting better, so that's nice. For those of you who don't know, I have a subtalar coalition in my ankle, which basically I don't know exactly what it means, but from what I understand, I don't have any cartilage in my ankle, so it's basically like arthritis, but not, and it's not fixable. You can have surgery, but I'm not going to. But I think the act of like moving helps it, because if I was standing and throwing, I would just be standing.
Yeah.
And that would not be ideal.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious to see how
And-
it's going to
and, like,
progress with your hand building over time. But
Yeah.
I mean, you could balance it, right? You can hand build for like half the day and then throw some stuff and
Yeah. Exactly. And I can, well, and throwing actually still hurts my ankle. It's because of the movement of the pedal.
Mm-hmm.
So, regardless, it's going to hurt sitting down or standing up. But I can also use a stool, and
Yeah, like a bar stool that you can kind of work at, and if you do kind of get your different steps in a certain spot,
Yeah.
then you can have all the flapjacks of clay there, and then just kind of work in that
Exactly.
spot. And then as long
Yeah,
as the board's
exactly.
within
And, like-
reach, then you don't have to.
Yeah, and the way that I set up the studio is really ideal for me to work, which was kind of unintentional, but intentional at the same time.
Well, plus there's
I
nobody
always
there
try
right
to-
now, so
Right, it's great. I always try to make it. It's hard for me because I'm kind of a giver, so I always want to make sure that everybody else is more comfortable. And through the years, I finally figured out, I guess, that maybe you need to think about yourself a little bit. So this time I was like, okay, if I'm working, how do I want it to do? And I put my two main tables in the middle, and I put like a little wider section so I can put my slab roller in there. And so the slab roller's in the middle, and I can go back and forth between the two tables, and it's been fabulous. So
isn't
far.
the slab roller rollable?
Yeah. So, and I can roll it out of the way. But
Yeah.
and the regular slab roller's in the middle of those two tables as well.
Yeah.
But it's just nice, and I will never do hand building while other people are there, just because it takes. I mean, I might do a little bit, but it just takes a lot of effort
Mm-hmm.
to teach and do all those things. But yeah, lots of space for your, lots of countertop space is needed.
All right. I need to make some. I'm gonna make a mold for a planter tray. And we'll see about that slab roller. I don't know if I'm gonna get that in the short term, but I'll find out solutions until we make that decision.
Well, do some research. Maybe you can make like a really cheap, almost version of a slab roller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're about wrapped up. This is a long one for you today, so I hope you enjoy it. I know people have been listening in the studios and been commenting about
Yeah.
enjoying the back and forth. So
Somebody asked me the other day if there was any more. They're like, put more out.
I've been making a short list of other topics that we could get going on maybe. So,
Yay!
all right. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it for sure. And we'll catch you next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you could find the podcast at Wheel Talk Podcast, or you could find myself at RD Ceramics. That's R as in Ryan, D as in Durban, Ceramics.
Or you can find me at 5 Lines Pottery Studio. That's the number 5. And don't forget, share this with your friends, like us on Instagram, and don't forget to write a review. It helps us an awful lot. Thanks.